Hello, everyone. Welcome to our cybercrime investigation course's first session. Today, we are going to actually go over the cybercrimes, major trends and major threats to cybersecurity. The major topics that we are going to involve in this session is about the major cybercrime trends. We'll know more about the virtual world and develop knowledge about major cybercrime incidents and threats to cybersecurity. Here we have the outline of the key issues that we will cover in this session. You can always follow this. And as you all know, I guess majority of you know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It starts with psychological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. All of these have been taught in many of the classes, I am sure, and majority of students, when I ask, are aware of this hierarchy of needs, which is a motivational theory in psychology. But today, actually, if we want to reorder the hierarchy of needs, internet would be on the top of needs. And I think Maslow, if he were to rewrite his hierarchy of needs explanation, he wouldn't actually need all of these, because as we have the internet, we can access variety of things, right? We can access, for instance, food. We can order food via internet, right? You can access a lot of websites that help you order food, and you can have shelter. You can actually find a hotel through your access to the internet, right? And you can have actually security cameras and watch your house even if you are not in your home, right? And there are other things like you can find a friend on the internet, and you can achieve your self-esteem via social media, right? And all of these actually bring advantage to all of us, indeed. And actually, it's the only thing that you may not be able to find on the internet is self-actualization. Maybe someone is going to actually develop an application and help you achieve your self-actualization, right? So we can find a lot of things on the internet. Actually, set aside the joke at the beginning, technology and networks have covered all of our lives, right? We use technology in every bit of our steps. We use cell phones, computers, we use networking opportunities, we use computers for our business, for our friendship, for almost everything. So the impact of technology to our life is substantial. And this substantiality actually covered or reshaped our modern society. It gave us a lot of opportunities, but also it changed our view on subjects and our way of life, right? And the world actually has restructured around the computer-mediated communication. So what is computer-mediated communication? It's basically an umbrella term that we use, right? And it encompasses various forms of communication through network technology. As I have mentioned, When you use computers to communicate, then that's computer-mediated communication. And computer-mediated communication is actually defined as human communication that occurs through the use of computers or two or more electronic devices. We actually used to say computers always, but we have more than computers today, right? We've got cell phones. We can play games and communicate with each other. We can have friendship through a variety of computer games and actually interact simultaneously. And computer-mediated communication enables us or single individual to reach, interact, and affect thousands of individuals, right? Look at the Twitter. One person sends a tweet and it can influence thousands and millions of people, right? It can even affect the election results, right? Twitter is a very serious and important way of communication. And technology acts as a force multiplier, enabling us to impact on millions of people. So in the past, it wasn't that much possible. We only had TVs, but TVs are some kind of a different thing. If you don't like watching TV or program, you just turn it off. But on social media, you are already connected with only what you like. So it's a kind of a different subject. It's social media actually is mostly about what you like and what you prefer. So it really impacts us. And the other thing, electronic media actually gave us an opportunity to send mass emails, mass communication with a custom way. So this actually really impacts us, right? And the multiplier effect of the computers actually, or computer-mediated communication, is a serious matter. And some of the scholars call the situation that we are going through as network society. Network society is a social structure built on networks. And computers are the major equipment that's utilized in networking, right? We use computers and mobile phones especially. And this is actually a microelectronics based communication. And we can give some of the examples, such as social network websites, right? Microelectronics based information technology, business websites such as Alibaba, Amazon, eBay, and Zoom that we almost every day use in the last few years, Microsoft Teams, and telehealth. You don't even need to go to a doctor in these days unless you have a serious condition that needs to be controlled by the doctor, right? If you have a dermatologic problem on your skin, then you just need to communicate with your doctor, unless it's a serious issue, obviously, and you can keep yourself safe in these COVID days, and especially the health professions as well. And all of these networking occurs in a cyber environment. Some call this as cyber environment, some call this as cyberspace, but I'd like to say more cyber environment, because it's more of a sociological term, and rather than using space, environment encompasses, gives an gives a meaning that encompasses all of us, right? Our environment is a very broad term, like the cyberspace, the space, but space gives an idea of emptiness, but environment is more live. So I prefer using cyber environment instead of cyberspace. But we are going to talk about cyberspace. It's actually more of a common term in these days, but maybe in the future it's going to change. And in the cyber environment, as I already mentioned, we've got business websites, shopping websites, right? We can do almost every business on Amazon. We communicate via Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx. We've got several tools, and we have hardware and equipment in our houses, and they are physical objects that are embedded with sensors, with processing ability, right? Software and other technologies, right? And they can connect to our system in our house and actually adjust many of the things in our house. We use IoT, Internet of Things, in our fridge, in our TVs, in our AC, and in a lot of things. And they're very useful. But on the other hand, IoTs can be a challenging matter because IoTs are developed not much of with a cybersecurity concept, right? They're actually built to serve humanity. So they are important for ourselves, but they can have variety of vulnerabilities, and cyber criminals would like to attack on IoTs and take advantage of IoTs, which we will go through or go over about all of the or majority of the impacts of IoTs on the cybersecurity in the forthcoming classes. And we are talking about the virtual world, and the virtual world is actually represented usually through media by the Matrix or Matrix movie or similar kinds of movies. And according to the Matrix movie, the real world is an illusion, right? And some of the precedents of this Matrix trilogy are Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, Plato's Allegory of the Cave, and Socrates' Visit to the Oracle of Delphi. So there are a lot of philosophical discussions indeed behind the Matrix movie, and it actually represents our virtual understanding of the cyber world. So that's a kind of important subject in actually criminology, that many of the criminologists actually start the discussion of cyberspace through the Matrix movie or some other movies. And we will talk more about the impact of media and movies in our next section, next session. And we've got robots, right? Robots in this cyberspace actually play their parts, and they can do a lot of things, and they can almost, I shouldn't say almost, they can behave like a human being, right? They can jump, they can run fast, they can carry a lot of objects, they can almost sense almost every object. So they are getting in our lives, right? And I believe that within 15 or 20 years, we'll see more robots in our environments, and they will be playing more important place in terms of cybersecurity. And we've got metaverse, and it's a different concept, right? Metaverse is a network of 3D virtual world focused on actually uh, social connections. So our social connections are even becoming more 3D issue and more virtual, and we will sense more about the virtual world and its construction of social realities. And we've got recent examples of humanoid robots. I suggest you to watch some of the actually videos on humanoid robots. You can find this source on CNET, and actually it's resembling a human, uh, and it can play some forms of human characteristics, right? And when you watch this actually video, you'll see a lot of things that are common. And when I look at the face of this robot, I see that there are some lines, and they're probably made because the creator of these robots didn't want them look like 100% like a human being. And we'll see a more advanced cell phone in the near future, and Tesla's mobile phones can actually access to internet from every part of the world, and they can have satellite connection. So even if you are in a desert, in a forest, you'll be able to reach or access to the internet, or you can communicate with people. So it actually removes the boundaries of communication geographically. So it is going to change the world. And considering that some countries which has not enough of internet infrastructure, and people will be able to access the internet from any places that they want, obviously, as long as they can afford to buy or purchase this cell phone. I don't know what it is gonna be like, what will be the price. I don't know for sure. And we've got the game consoles, and we have a variety of things on the internet that surrounds us, right? And we also have games like the Blue Whale Challenge game. I don't know if you ever heard of this game, but there are some more similar games to this. And it's actually developed by a Russian person who is a very young person, but it actually gives some orders to the players. And in the end, a lot of the young person and even children have died because of this game, because it influences your conscience, and young people can get influenced by such games more significantly than others. And so it's more of a burden for families to watch their kids and children and see they're not playing with such games. And actually, the person who developed this game actually got arrested in Russia because of inciting teenagers to suicide. Actually, he's now being held in prison. So we see that a game can change a lot of people's and families' life. So it's not just a game anymore, right? It can influence our life. It can impact our young people. So we use virtual world, but the virtual world itself transcends its border and impacts our physical and biological life. It can impact our psychology, right? Internet is a kind of a service provider for all of us. We use internet service provider in a different form, but I wanted to use internet as a service provider because it can also provide a lot of services through its infrastructure. And one of the major advantages of the internet that it can be used in health information technology, and medical professionals and health professionals use internet very frequently than we can imagine. Without having such an internet connection in these days, it's not possible to practice health issues. And actually, healthcare quality and safety in these days highly dependent on the internet and its utilization, indeed. So on the internet, we see that electronic health records, which is a subject of cybercrime, yeah, and personal health records, electronic prescribing. Think of electronic prescribing, right? If somebody were to change your prescription information, not just obtain or access to your health data, but what if someone were to change your prescription information? What would happen? It would really or significantly impact our life. It can be more detrimental maybe than the coronavirus. And the health information technology benefit from financial and operational management, and there are clinical decision support systems. So we can see a variety of applications on the internet that the medical professionals have been using. And I don't know if you ever heard of it, but the Americans' private health data estimated to be more valuable than financial data on the dark web. We're going to talk about dark web later in the session, but it's a kind of a darker side of the web that usually utilized by cyber criminals. And actually, this makes the individual's health record as the primary target by cyber criminals. And in healthcare, we got the cyber events going on, and if a cyber attack occurs, actually there's going to be an inability to engage in healthcare, and it can put our lives at risk, right? We have the pharmacy attacks, actually, and you can later on check the websites that I'm sharing here. And the pharmacy attacks already happened. So we are actually under the threat of cyber criminals in terms of our health data. And the next thing I'd like to share is, or go over, is actually artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is to make the machines think instead of yourself and decide and take advantage of the decision-making ability of actually artificial intelligence. And it's very useful. And the US Department of Defense uses or defines artificial intelligence as the ability of machines to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. So human intelligence actually being replaced by artificial intelligence. And we have started seeing examples of artificial intelligence on automobiles, right? On Tesla and on Mercedes, and in a lot of variety of car brands, we can see the examples of artificial intelligence. And actually, we can see the impact of artificial intelligence on actually health, right? X-rays can be scanned by artificial intelligence, and the results are very promising that almost equally the artificial intelligence can decide whether a person have a certain disease. So it's a very important technology, and even doctors almost being replaced by the artificial intelligence. And on the flip side of the coin, when artificial intelligence become hackers, then it can be more harmful to our computer networks, our way of life actually through the internet. Artificial intelligence don't think in terms of the implications, context, norms. It has no emotion, right? Artificial intelligence basically recognize the patterns of the systems and receives the continuous input of data, as you see here, and it can backtrack the attacks against criminals. But the cyber criminals can take advantage of artificial intelligence and do similar things and attack the cyber systems, right? And it can be more harmful if the cyber systems or artificial intelligence can track the behavior of system administrators and can collect, which is being done actually, the information about the system administrators and behaviors of the cybersecurity system, and it can decide automatically to attack to certain targets. But all in all, the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain is said to be the human factor. We've got tons of cybersecurity applications. We've got very experienced cybersecurity professionals. But all in all, we are just human beings, right? Since we are just human beings, we can make mistakes. We always do. And cyber criminals take advantage of this weakest link. And Bruce Shiner, who is a well-known lecturer on cybersecurity, always claimed that human factor is the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain. And Kevin Mitnick also claims the same thing, and he actually uses social engineering methods to attack against cybersecurity systems and take advantage of our weaknesses. And all of the equipments and tools, applications comes at a cost, right? And technology and crime almost intermingled in the cyberspace. Technology brings new opportunities, right? And we have seen malware as a service on the internet. Criminals can, or an individual can purchase a malware on the internet and can use it against a cyber infrastructure, against a target server, against another person. So we call this as actually malware as a service. And there are many also opportunities for cyber criminals, and they can infiltrate the protected systems. We've been seeing identity theft a lot. We've seen fraud a lot, and child exploitation, terrorism, hacktivism, and intelligence. And I little bit mentioned about the malware as a service in the previous slide. And malware as a service has been commonly used by botnets. So you can hire a botnet and then attack against a server utilizing maybe thousands of computers. You just buy a malware as a service, and you got all of a sudden thousands of computers to attack against a certain target. And ransomware as a service is the offering actually pay for use malware. You can find credit cards on the internet, right? And email passwords for sale, hacking learning websites. You can learn how to hack a computer using the internet. And in the past, it wasn't that much possible. There were actually examples of how to commit a crime, but learning how to commit a cybercrime is a more broader opportunity for people. You can learn it legitimately because it has got both a legitimate side, which means securing your cyber system, and also a legitimate side. So it's like a double-edged sword. So we see criminal networks on the internet, forums discusses how to commit cybercrime, encrypted communication, which is a very big challenge for cyber security professionals and also for law enforcement agencies, right? And we've got the dark web, which provides opportunity for people to communicate in an anonymous way, and people actually can use or take advantage of this anonymous communication via the internet. So we've got a lot of cybercrime services. So how does someone or a person learn cybercriminal behavior? Maybe through social learning. And how do hackers learn how to hack? There are actually a variety of websites that support your learning curve, such as the hack this site. You can actually attack this site and try your best, actually try your skills and hack this site. So you already have a lot of virtual opportunities to utilize what you already got as a skill on your hand. And actually this website has been hacked and it's not running in these days. So you can find list of top 20 best sites to learn ethical hacking. We're going to talk about ethical hacking in the upcoming slides. So you can find hacking tutorial, hack in the box, hack this site, evil zone hacking forums. So there are a lot of plethora of information already on the internet that you can utilize and take advantage of it. And here we got another very famous tool, Metasploit, that you can learn penetration through Metasploit. You can download it for free. And there are also an option for people to use, take advantage of commercial support. You can even get a support for how to use Metasploit. It's a very commonly known software for attackers to take advantage of vulnerabilities of cybersecurity systems. So all in all, why are hackers attacking America more than others? Let's see some of the numbers. According to IMF and International Monetary Fund, actually, United States has one of the largest, actually has the largest economy all across the world. And the economy of the US almost equal to the Europe's economy. US economy is larger than China and Japan. Japan actually. And there's a saying that the criminals follow where the money is. So the commercial infrastructure of the United States actually attracts cyber criminals. So cyber criminals are mainly thinking about actually their own benefit. But there are also other reasons, obviously. United States is a big target for rogue governments, right? And a variety of technologies are being actually tested. Attack technologies are being tested by the rogue governments and cyber criminal groups and intelligence groups against the United States cyber infrastructure. So the economic competitiveness of the United States, especially through the internet, actually really the influencer of such attacks. Now we are in pandemic, and we see that computer viruses becoming more influential in as much as biological viruses. We started using computers more than ever for our business. We have never used computer in as much as today, right? With the start of pandemic, and we started working remotely. Remote work has become more common. Remote education has become more common and prevalent, even though it was being used. It has been used actually since 2004, 2005, or maybe more earlier actually. And the relationship between the COVID-19 pandemic and the cyber attacks is usually about the phishing emails, and often impersonating the government and health authorities. Cyber criminals try to entice their victims into providing their personal data and downloading malicious content. So they're sending a phishing email that says for Medicaid application, for government support, click this link and fill out this form, and we're gonna get back to you very quickly. And you fill out all of those information, and you become a victim of an identity theft, and you may end up giving your credit card information. And it actually impacts older people more than the younger people. And malware is the major subject major subject of this actually class. And malware is a software, and it's a combination of mal and software, and those malicious and software. And actually when you combine these two words, it just becomes malware. And malware is a computer program used to perform malicious actions, right? And you see a list of malwares on the internet, which you can find a lot of information easily if you just Google it. You'll see ransomware, spyware, adware, trojans, worms, rootkits, you name it. There are a lot of different types of malwares on the internet actually. And we've been seeing phishing emails and examples of requested actions. Actually, in a phishing email include clicking an attachment. You receive an email like this trusted bank, and it says, dear valued customer of trusted bank, for example, we've received notice that you have recently attempted to withdraw the following amount of money from your checking account, such and so forth. and you click the attachment and enable the macros in a Word document. For instance, it requires you maybe updating your password, and in a phishing email, actually cyber criminals ask you to provide the following information: date of birth, social security numbers, phone numbers, credit card details, and password information, right? So they retrieve your information and they're good to go. They can use your credit card to purchase, and to purchase some of the things. Then they can even be illegal, right? So scammers use your email, or they can send a text message to your cell phone and trick you into giving your password. And but there are a lot of things and variety of things that you can protect yourself. For instance, if you're downloading a Word document and if the source is not trusted, you just don't want to enable the macro on the Word document. But on the other side, if you're downloading a PDF file, you can still be attacked by an PDF file. So there are a lot of methods that cyber criminals can take advantage of. Actually, every legitimate applications on the internet. Here we see another example of a phishing email. Dear network user, this email is meant to inform you that your university network password will expire in 24 hours. And you can see your university's name on the top of the header of the email, and you just click it and you actually lose your password. And there are some ways to figure out if you have been actually, if your information has already been infiltrated through data breaches, right? And for instance, there's a website that's called haveibeenconned.com, and when you enter your email address to this website and search your email address and see if it's already, if your email has already been attacked. It can also be your phone number, and here you on the bottom of the page you see the attack related with your information. So if your email address has been already obtained by cyber criminals, if your password is already being obtained by cyber criminals, you can see the explanation of the attack right here on this website address. So I suggest you go to this website, write your email address, and see actually if there's already your email address over there. And if you'd like to share on the discussion board, actually I'd be more than happy. And you can also look up your some of the information on the internet. For instance, if you want to see a certain website is secure before just directly clicking or entering that website, then actually Norton's website is is actually providing you an indirect access to such website. You're not actually accessing the website, but actually you can get an information whether the website has already had a malicious software, and if there's any malicious activity and computer viruses or Trojans on the internet website, then you can actually know it beforehand. If you do not know the website, never heard of it, and actually you can use your you can use this address and actually your antivirus program also can help you determine if the website is not secure. And you can take a phishing quiz actually from this website and see how phishing occurs. Actually, ransomware is one of the major types of malware in these days, actually in the last maybe in the last decade or more. And ransomware is a malware that employs encryption to the victim's computer. And when a victim's computer is attacked, they encrypt, the cyber criminals encrypt the computers of the victim, and you will not be, or victim will not be able to reach his or her own data as it's already been encrypted. So this is called a ransomware. Users or organizations' critical data is encrypted so that they cannot access the files, databases, and application. And in the end, a ransom is demanded from the victim's organization. So once the attacker can obtain the system administrator's password and attack to the network, and or find a vulnerability in the network, they can attack almost all computers within the same network. So all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and you'll not be able to reach any of the information in your network, right? It's interesting. And the ransomware actually is often designed to spread across a network and target database and file servers, and can actually quickly paralyze an entire network, an entire organization. Actually, ransomware uses asymmetric encryption, which is the advanced form of encryption method. So you're given some time to pay the ransom, and unless you pay the ransom, and you are gonna stuck with it. And actually, there are some ways to deal with this, and you may take some precautions, such as backing up your information within your network, but it's not always useful. Just even backing up your information will not help, as it happened in the Colonial Pipeline as ransomware attack. On May 7, 2021, Colonial Pipeline attack actually faced with a ransomware attack, and it had to shut down its actually system. And indeed, Colonial Pipeline actually covers the supply of 50% of the gas for the East Coast of the US. And that's very important. We're talking about the East Coast, and 50% of the gas supplies are provided by the Colonial Pipeline, and it was being under attack. And actually, the company had to pay $5 million ransom through the actually. I guess it was a Bitcoin or something like that ransom, one day after the Russian-based cyber criminals hacked the IT infrastructure of the Colonial Pipeline. And actually, normally nobody would pay that ransom, but it's such an important critical infrastructure of the United States. So the next day, the CEOs had to decide that the ransomware needs to be paid as quickly as possible, and it was paid. And the password of the system, encrypted system, was given by the cyber criminals, and everything turned to normal in a few weeks, actually. And in that case, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration had to declare an emergency in 18 states. So it actually, this attack is one of the most influential attacks against the cyber infrastructure of the United States that impacted normal citizens' life. Yeah, we've seen the gas prices increased after the attack. We've seen people standing or waiting in the line to get a gas in a gas station. We've seen people were not able to purchase gas for their cars. So it actually impacted the transportation of the United States, right? And how it happened, how this attack happened. Virtual private network password actually was obtained by cyber criminals, and one of the system administrators of the system actually were system administrators' password were compromised, and later it was discovered that account was in dark web. Wow, it's interesting that an important cybersecurity administrator's password were actually discovered in the dark web. So we should, even if we are a tech-savvy person, we should not trust that we are not under attack, we are not being under attack. So we should always try to change our password, renew, update our password, and we should not trust or have high self-confidence on our network. And you can find a ransomware quiz on your on the FTC website actually, and I'll share this FTC website's link actually with you on the learning on the actually Blackboard website. So let's little bit talk about the daily cybercrime activity. According to McAfee, which is actually one of the major cybersecurity firms in the United States and as well as in the world, right? So estimated daily activity of cybercrime actually can be the malicious scans can be 80 billion. This is actually from 2017. And new malware introduced to the systems more than 300,000 times. We see 33,000 phishing emails, according to just McAfee, and 4,000 ransomware, and records lost to hacking is almost 800,000, and this was actually in 2017, and I will try to find a more updated data on this, but in these days you can just double these numbers. Let's go over economics and victimization. The economics of actually cybercrime is one of the major topics in terms of cybersecurity, because it's mainly about economics, right? And our economy highly depends on the cyber infrastructure, and the total activities and assets at risks due to cybercrime in 2017 for the US amounts to almost $12 trillion, right? And this includes the 2017 digital economy. So the digital economy, actually, the transactions occurring in the United States is worth $1.4 trillion. That's higher than many of the nation's gross domestic product. And an asset that could be potentially be digitally connected is $10.5 trillion. So this entices thousands of cyber criminals. And the manufacturing industry's share of at-risk activities and assets is $4.4 trillion. And its share of digital economy is about $130 billion. So what we are seeing is that actually the US economy actually highly dependent on the internet. So internet is a very good thing, very efficient thing, very useful for all of us, but it's actually useful for the cyber criminals as well. Let's see some other statistics on Norton's website. Over 75% of targeted cyber attacks start with an email. So email is the gateway for cyber criminals to attack individuals, governments, or organizations. So we need to secure our email systems. But the fact of the matter is that the email system was not developed securely. It's just a mail system, an electronic mailing system, right? So it wasn't developed to have a secure transaction. And in 2020, the FBI received almost more than 15,000 of internet crime complaints related to tech support fraud and from victims in 60 different countries. So tech support fraud is very common, and more than half of all consumers have experienced a cybercrime, with around 1 in 3 falling victim in the past year alone. And in 2020, the FBI received more than 2,000 internet crime complaints per day. So what we are seeing here is that cybercrime has become more than usual. It has become a normal activity on the internet. And the healthcare industry is expected to spend $125 billion on cybersecurity from 2022 to 2025. So the cost of cybercrime is not just the direct cost, but there are some other costs, such as indirect costs, that actually the government, the organizations, companies, individuals need to purchase some advanced cybersecurity tools, and it's another actually cost for all of us actually. And according to Checkpoint, which is another actually cybersecurity firm, the first half of 2021 saw 100% increase in ransomware attacks compared to the beginning of 2020. Even in 2020, the ransomware attacks were very high, but in 2021, it just staggered a lot. And let's see some of the numbers from the FBI. Internet Crime Complaint Center is actually mainly managed by the FBI. It's a public reporting website. When you become a victim of a cybercrime, then you should try to access to IC3 website, and you can report financial fraud or internet scheme, and we see the increase in complaints. Let's see some of the complaints. In 2016, there were like almost 300,000 complaints. And 2017, we see a similar number. And in 2018, we see a more than 15% of increase in cyber attacks in terms of the number of complaints. And in 2019, we see more than 30% increase in the number of complaints. And when we look at the 2020 data, actually, we see 70% increase since 2019 in terms of the number of complaints. And when we look at the losses, 2016, 2017, there's not much of a big change. And it turns out that in 2018, the economic loss increases here. And in 2019, the economic loss still on the rise. And in 2020, we see that the total loss actually was $4.5 billion. So in 5 years, we see more than 2 million total complaints and 13 billion total losses just reported to the IC3 websites. And a lot of these complaints are not reported because sometimes the bank or financial authority that you're working with provides compensation, because sometimes companies do not want to share that they were under attack, because this actually influences their reputation. Let's see some of the victimization data. Let's start with the age from here. Under 20 years old, there's just 23,000 people were victim of cyber attacks, and the total loss is over actually 70 million. And when we look at the data here as actually the age increases, the number of victimization and the total loss increases, right? When we look at here, over the age of 60, more than 100,000 people have been victimized actually in the last year. And we see that as we go through this table, people when they're young, they are less likely to become victim. And this is something that needs to be researched, right? Maybe younger generation are more tech savvy, or maybe younger generation do not actually have such money to lose, right? So there may be a lot of reason that needs to be researched. And according to National Institute of Standards and Technology, the economic losses of the American business due to cybercrime actually over 170 billion, and it's actually between 170 billion and 770 billion. So this is an estimation. There are upper limits and lower limits, and it's actually very hard to measure the economic losses of American business due to underreporting, due to actually not reporting. So there are some simulation techniques that the researchers do and analyze, and according to this actually research, it could be like almost like $770 billion lost in 2016. So when it comes to reality, it's hard to measure the real numbers, but this is a lot of money for the United States and for all countries in all over the world. And the impact of cybercrime actually significantly influences our economy. But there's also some benefit in terms of cybersecurity because United States companies, cybersecurity companies are pretty much advanced and actually earn a lot in terms of selling cybersecurity products, which is not usually mentioned here. But on the flip side of the coin, we can see that the US companies, especially the cybersecurity companies, can take advantage of these advanced technologies. AIG is one of the highly known insurance company, and it's estimated that global cybercrime damage cost is expected to be over $10.5 trillion. So it's a significant loss. I think they need to revise this estimation. It could be a lot more than I think. And the global ransomware damage was more than $300 million, and it's expected to be in for 2021 $20 billion. We still need to see these numbers actually, but when we look at the statistics and estimations, we see that the United States has been, and the global economy actually has been suffering a lot in terms of the cybercrime and cybersecurity related issues. Here we see that United States is obviously on the top of all of these countries in terms of victimization and cybercrime. We already went through some information why this is happening. Actually, this is happening because politically, United States is a strong country that others, some rogue governments have been willing to attack, and the US economy highly depends on the internet infrastructure. Just look at the statistics here. The United States on the top with the 23% of cybercrime rates, and China is on second, it's just 9%. Germany, which is another developed country, 6%. Britain and Spain. Here we see that these countries are economically more developed countries than majority of other countries. And here we see Italy, and let's see Canada. Canada, even though it's a prosperous country, it uses internet very well, and South Korea, and actually their share is 2% of cybercrime. So this needs to be analyzed, right? Where are actually all these losses comes from? And the opportunities of cyberspace is enormous. It provides a cheaper environment in which to commit crime with the help of apparatus such as computers, networks. Cybercrime comprises extra parties that are used as a base for perpetrating cybercrimes. So a group of individuals can interact with another group of individuals, A person can interact or communicate with another person and communicate, and they can commit cybercrime altogether, even if they don't know each other. Cyberspace provides anonymity and distance to others, including both victims and third parties. So you may already become a victim of cybercrime and you may not even know it. You might have already lost your personal data, personally protected data, which is called PPI. Actually, you might have already lost that data, but you might not know it. So you need to research about it. All right. And one of the advantages or organizations that the cyber criminals have been using is encryption. Sky ECC used to advertise itself as a secure end-to-end encrypted service. It was the largest supplier of crypto communication worldwide. And the mega operation carried out against this platform actually in the last year, because cyber criminals wanted to take advantage of Sky ECC because it was providing encrypted communication. And one of the most important things for cyber criminals is to take advantage of actually encryption. You hide yourself, you anonymize yourself, then you can communicate from one part of the world to another part of the world actually. And they started using this actually program, and the owner or the developer of this software was actually living in Canada, and he claimed no responsibility, but over 1,600 officers throughout Belgium and Netherlands intercepted 14 tons of cocaine and seized over 1.2 million euros within this police actually raid. With this police raid, a lot of things confiscated because a lot of cyber criminals organized on the internet using Sky ECC were exchanging actually data as well as smuggling drugs, illicit drugs. And actually judicial and law enforcement authorities in Belgium, France and Netherlands have cooperated, and they've been in close cooperation. And as a matter of fact, there is a better communication and cooperation between police agencies than the governments themselves. And actually, this close cooperation enabled major interventions to block the further use of encrypted software by large-scale organized crime groups with the support of Europol and Eurojust. So what are these? Europol, it's an organization that's founded to help police organizations within Europe to communicate, to help each other, to interact each other in developing operations or raids against cyber criminals. So it is a sort of interagency operability agency that helps European police departments all across the Europe, that includes European Union members. But it actually transcends its borders. Europol can communicate with other countries, police agencies, and one of the advantage of the Europol is it can utilize a variety of resources from different European countries and actually helps some less developed European countries, such as Bulgaria, to help them investigate cyber crimes. So one of the most important thing actually in terms of cybercrime investigation is to have a better interaction between police agencies or police organizations through Europol, through Interpol. They're very useful. And Eurojust is the judicial body of European Union, and it actually needs to cooperate because judicial boundaries are the real boundaries that prevents police agencies to investigate cybercrime. So without having judicial cooperation between countries, it's not possible to investigate cybercrimes. So another thing that I'd like to talk about the variety of behaviors on the internet in terms of cybercrime is dark web, right? Here we see surface web. This is actually a very common analogy that you can find on the internet. Surface web includes Google, Facebook, websites, e-commerce, YouTube, blogs, Wikipedia, you name it. You can reach these websites without usually using a password. And on the deep web, we see net banking, private forums, private networks, and medical records. And on the dark web, you can see, you can find illegal information. You can, an individual can become anonymous, and dark web can be accessed through Tor, sort of an application like Google Chrome, an application like Firefox, Mozilla, and you can reach or access to these anonymous websites using Tor. Tor is actually an acronym for the onion router, and there are also other tools to surf the internet anonymously. Freenet, I2P are examples. And you can find stolen credit card data, as I already mentioned. You can even purchase firearms, illegal drugs, and other physical items through the dark web. So dark web is itself actually a resource for cyber criminals, while it has some legitimate purposes. Tor web browser is actually was actually developed in the mid-90s by the United States. Actually, Tor became the most famous tool in terms of anonymity and privacy to access and publish material on the dark web. The idea was to route the traffic through multiple servers and encrypt at each step. So the basic idea behind the Tor is to encrypt your communication so that your communication and private information stays private, right? So the purpose of Tor is indeed a legitimate purpose. And its code was released under a free and open software license, which means people can use this software without paying any money, actually. And by the end of 2003, the network had about a dozen volunteer nodes, mostly in the US, plus one in Germany. The Tor network actually is named the Onion Router, and it was quickly coined with the shorter Tor, with its name coming from application layer encryption. So at the application layer, you are encrypted your data. Actually, the layers are actually representing the layers of an onion. It's like an onion. So you have got one encryption in the first layer, one type of encryption, and another encryption in the second layer and third layer. Tor helps users to reach the dark web in terms of cybercrime. The browser and the network handle the web traffic by bouncing the communication through a chain of 3 randomly chosen computers from all over the world. So it's very hard to intercept such a network, especially if it's bouncing through the communications, through the networks, and randomly choosing 3 computers from all over the world to communicate. It's very hard for investigators, for law enforcement agencies to intercept such communication. And Tor has a good side and bad side. It has a legitimate purpose, and it can be used for illegitimate purposes as well. So what is the legitimate person? It helps you avoid identity theft and circumvent censorship, and to perform research on topics that might be sensitive in certain countries. Tor was instrumental in actually was an instrumental tool during the Arab Spring beginning in the late 2010. So people from such countries, lack of democratic administration, can take advantage of anonymous surfing of the internet using Tor. And it not only protected people's identity online, but also allowed them to access critical resources, social media, and websites which were blocked. So such countries in tyranny block their people's access to information on the internet. So they are restricting access to the internet. And actually this impacts a lot of people's freedom all over the world. So Tor has mainly a legitimate purpose. The Onion top-level domain is specifically used to access hidden services hosted only on the Tor network. So it's not part of the internet DNS route, right? The Onion sites do not have the formatting used in the clear net. So they do not have a URL address like example.com. The Onion top-level domain is specifically used to access hidden services hosted only on the Tor network. So we need to pay attention to this. It's not part of the internet DNS system, as I mentioned, and it's not like the example.com. So what does top-level domain mean? Top-level domain refers to the last segment of the domain name, such as com, .org, .net, .go, .edu, right? So it's the part that follows immediately after the dot symbol. For example, in the internet address google.com, the .com portion is the top level domain. And OBF's proxy is a Tor sub-project which can be used to hide the way online traffic looks like, right? It was developed because there are countries that use deep packet inspection to block VPN connections, or governments that just force ISPs to filter SSL traffic. So basically, those governments, democratic governments, take advantage of such their systems to prevent the access using Tor. So even if you're using Tor browser, you may not be able to access to the websites, for instance, a discussion websites, a political website. You may not be able to reach such websites even if you use Tor, because they use deep packet inspection. And one of the samples of these illegitimate websites on the dark web was Silk Road. It was very popular, but it was being used by cyber criminals. It was an online illegal market and the first modern darknet market. Silk Road was shut down in October 2013 by the FBI, and the guy who actually was running the website got arrested, and the Silk Road website was removed from the internet. But there's still a lot of similar websites to Silk Road. So it started a trend, and actually this trend influenced the dark web. So on the dark web, here you can see some of the information and their worth in dollar value. Stolen PayPal accounts, minimum of $100. Stolen PayPal account details, minimum of $1,000. And you can see the price range, and at each actually card you can see the amount of payment that you need to make in terms of these payment processing services. And in 2021, we see another operation or police raid in Europe. Actually, police across the world have arrested 150 alleged suspects involved in buying or selling illicit goods on the dark web, and it was an international operation. Actually, that also included the US. More than 26 million euros, or it's equal to 31 million US dollars in cash and virtual currencies have been seized in this operation, as well as 45 firearms. So we're talking about an internet website or an internet platform such as Tor, but it's actually has become a safe haven for cyber criminals. But obviously law enforcement is not stopping here. They are doing their best, and they are very successful in circumventing such illegal trades on the internet. The police seized drugs that include 152 kilograms of amphetamine, 27 kilograms of opioids, and over 25,000 ecstasy pills. So that's a lot, right? Actually, we can see how how criminals organize on the internet and take advantage of it. And this is the one. When you look at these raids in operations, police operations, they've seized these illicit goods, illicit drugs, illicit use of illicit substances with firearms. Actually, it's one point. It's a point in a timeline. Maybe they have already smuggled a lot of firearms. They have already smuggled illicit drugs through the use of internet. So the impact of the internet can be substantial in terms of the organized crime, in terms of the victimization, in terms of the illicit trade. And the Italian authorities actually shut down the Deep Sea and Berlusconi dark web marketplaces, which together boasted over 100,000 announcements of illegal products. So here we see that a lot of transaction has occurred on the internet that's illegal, and it's good that police organizations all all over the world cooperated. And the dark web is no longer as dark as some criminals would like. So in figures, darknet includes almost 500,000 users, more than 2,500 sellers, and over 320,000 transactions, and more than 4,600 Bitcoin and 12,800 Monero transferred. But actually, you see that the police cooperation in this operation that includes US, France, and other countries actually helped stop dark web. And cryptocurrencies are actually quite important in terms of illicit trades. Monetization of stolen data is important, and one of the significant challenges for cyber criminals is to transfer the illicit money. Right? It's like in the past, majority of criminals used money laundering, but using cryptocurrencies, money laundering has become easier. Monetization of cybercrime activities have become less difficult because of improvements regarding the use of digital currencies. Criminals facilitate criminal transactions and crimes such as money laundering, extortion, blackmail, and fraud. And there's currently actually a lack of experience between the law enforcement agencies to investigate cryptocurrencies. So it's a very technical issue. It's an engineering issue. I know that a lot of police agencies and police investigators actually receiving trainings to investigate cryptocurrencies. Universities, colleges have been supporting such investigations actually. And cryptocurrencies are in cryptocurrencies, transactions are private, identities are unknown, right? Identity is known, but there's I'm sorry, in traditional transactions are private, identity is known, there's a single sender and usually a single receiver and small number of accounts per entity, transactions controlled by centralized banks, and governments control money supply. So a traditional transaction is actually controlled by the government, by banking authorities. So it's not easy for criminals to hide their identity through money laundering using the, for instance, internet banking. But in terms of cryptocurrencies, transactions are public, identities unknown. There are multiple inputs, multiple outputs, which makes the transactions more complex. And there are new addresses for more transactions, transactions controlled by decentralized network, and supply typically based on consensus. So this is quite a different form of money transactions. So you've got multiple inputs and multiple outputs and new addresses for more transactions. This makes things more complicated. We're going to talk more about the cryptocurrencies in the future classes. And the Bitcoin have become a popular choice for cyber criminals. There's high level of anonymity that it provides for its users. Bitcoin users can only be identified if their accounts become linked to their real identities. So if there's already identity theft and if someone is already using someone else's identity, to purchase Bitcoin, then it's going to be harder for law enforcement agencies to find and investigate such criminals or criminal cases. Users are connected via peer-to-peer network where they announce any transactions they wish to make. Transactions can be validated by anyone using the publicly available list of transactions, which is called the blockchain, which is a term generated in proof of work system. We're going to talk more about the proof of work system in the feature classes. And Bitcoin transactions are not completely anonymous as some would expect. And as I already a little bit mentioned, there's a Bitcoin laundering. Cyber criminals launder the Bitcoins and withdraw them through unregulated exchange to avoid being actually caught. Bitcoin laundering can actually occur to the process of tumbling or mixing, where multiple users pull both clean and dirty Bitcoins together. So it's a new method of money laundering using the Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. So it becomes more difficult for law enforcement agencies to dissect every bit of transactions. And so it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of investment indeed. And the program executes a series of exchange between the members that eventually gives the users back their money in randomized coins. And so Bitcoin is a problem for law enforcement agencies. So we are coming to the last section of this session. We have gone through a lot of things in terms of the cybersecurity trends, cybersecurity threats, and the trends in terms of the cyber threats. So there are a lot of problems in criminal justice emanating from such cybersecurity violations. One of them is the underreporting, to gain real knowledge about cybercrime victimization. Victimization surveys about cybercrimes have been actually used widely, but they're not enough, I think. Lack of knowledge about cybercrime victimization cause actually insufficient resource assignment. That's another thing. And majority of managers, CEOs, and government leaders may not have enough of information about the impact of cybersecurity violations and cybercrimes. So it's important that we should spread the knowledge about cybersecurity and cybercrime more, so that sufficient assignments given in terms of the security budget. And victimization is underreported because the time and money to be expended on an investigation is a lot. The focus of the business being directed on the investigation can change. There are internal disruption in terms of reporting, and companies can lose their reputation, which they do not want to lose their reputation, because as a consumer, if you want to actually have a transaction with a company, you actually want to have a secure transaction, right? So they do not want to disclose that they've been victimized by cyber criminals. That's another challenge. And there are backlogs, a lot of backlogs in terms of digital investigations. Police and law enforcement agencies have to deal with such backlogs, enormous backlogs in digital forensics labs. Digital forensics practice in local police agencies are limited, so it's actually usually performed by federal agencies, but the centralized nature of the federal agencies and the amount of actually investment for the federal agencies may not be enough. And the evaluation of organized crime attacks that change policies for the future of cybercrime can actually impact the nature of investigations. Organized crime has become more prevalent on the internet, and this is another challenge because organized criminals, as it's on its name, can become more organized, can become more developed. So it's a bigger challenge for law enforcement agencies as well. Here you see some of the resources: IC3 websites, SANS.org, and other websites on the internet which you can find actually. And these were actually some of the major or basic topics of the first module on the subject. So I want to share some major important concepts for you all in the first place, so that you can have some more information beforehand. In the future classes, we will go deeper in these subjects, and you will have more information about the technicalities of these cybercrime issues. And I wanted to share some information that encompasses the cyberspace in the cyber environment. I hope that you spend some more time to understand this lecture that I have recorded, and please freely discuss some of the issues I've shared on this lecture on the video, and there will be more videos I'll be uploading this week, and I hope we interact more on the discussion forums about these actually matters of cybercrime. And I actually want to thank you all for listening until the end of this lecture. And I hope you will have a very good term, very healthy term in this semester. And I hope you will all enjoy the cybercrime lectures. And I hope we will have a variety of discussions and proceed along with the semester. And thank you for participating in this lecture.